So first, welcome to the Ed Rising closing session. I'm going to do some thank yous. Then we're going to have our Arkansas Teacher of the Year, Susanna Post, speak. And then I'm going to say who won the different awards. And so I think we should start out by who in this room, like with who in this room is a high school student? Right? Who in this room is a college student? Okay, you segregated yourself. That's good. That's good for Omicron. We're cool with that. Okay. And so we're really excited that you're here because we want everyone to be thinking about what it means to become a teacher. And yesterday we had some great competitions. I can't wait to tell you the results. And I just really wanted to just let you know how inspiring it is to hear people who want to enter our profession. And, I will tell you that when you talk to other teachers and you tell them that you want to be a teacher, nothing feels better than knowing that what you're doing is making a difference. And as I watched videos and looked at books and looked at competitions, I was like, wow, our future is very, very bright in Arkansas. So let me go ahead and Department of here. And available through a grant from Walton Family. Next slide, if you would. So I first wanted to thank all the judges. We had judges from 2 co-ops and from ATU. Everybody, let's give a round of applause for the judges. Slide, if you would. I wanted to thank all the presenters. How many of you got to see that student panel yesterday? A couple of you? Okay, I have to tell you, we're going to send the video out later. And when we send the video out later, I want to tell you that that is the one to watch. The students really did a really good job of talking what it's like to be a college student, and so it's a great opportunity. Next. I wanted to thank people for all their support. Belinda Cottrell from ADE did all the audio and video, and she definitely knew how to make it go off without a hitch. Tammy Brewer is helping us from the co-op. I've had some graduate students help us, and then several people from OIS are hidden back in that room helping to make sure that this all works. And then, of course, Raven Harris is from the Arkansas Department of Education, and also all of the regional conference directors who share experience from the past. So yesterday when we had the presentations, I realized that there was some more information that you may want. And so I've given you the email for Dr. Bell, who's our licensure officer, if you want to know about getting your license. I've given the email to Raven Harris, who can tell you more about the Educators Rising program and the state conference. If, we really wanted people to be able to come and visit the campus and tour campus, and Omicron got us. So I wanted to give you a visit at atu.edu so that you could, when you decide that you want to come and visit our campus, we will be ready for you. And finally, my email, tcullen@atu.edu. I could tell you about any program in education at ATU. And of course, I want to thank you for your participation, for attending, for being here today, for competing yesterday, for attending the information sessions. If you don't have attendees, it doesn't happen. So next, I'm going to introduce our Teacher of the Year. Thinking I was going to be standing at that table over there, so I might shortcut your intro. So Susanna, if you go to the next slide, please. The 2021 Arkansas Teacher of the Year teaches courses for grades 7 through 12 at Bell Point High School in Fort Smith. And she came to teaching from a very different path, and I think that you will find it very interesting and understand all the different ways that we can become a teacher and make a difference in students' lives. And so I'm going to go ahead and make this transition and let Susanna come and speak.
Check, check. Everyone hear me? Morning. Morning? 20 more minutes? So good to be with y'all this morning. I haven't gotten to do an Ed Rising conference in person yet, so I've been staring at everyone on a computer screen, and it's little faces. My name is Susanna. I am your 2021 Arkansas Teacher of the Year. And one of the questions that I usually get, and we actually have another Teacher of the Year in the room here up front. One of the questions that I'm sure you got as well, how do you get to be Arkansas Teacher of the Year? Like, how do you get to be the best teacher for the whole state? Which I am not, by the way. I'm not the best teacher in Arkansas. Maybe not even the best teacher in Fort Smith, but I definitely did some things right, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about my path to the classroom, because like Dr. Cullen mentioned, it wasn't just a traditional go to college for 4 years, get my teaching license, and hit the ground running. That wasn't the way that I came to be where I am today. So I want to tell you about that. I get about 30 minutes, I think, to speak. Yeah. So I want to tell you about my path. I want to tell you about my platform as Arkansas Teacher of the Year, and throw in some stories from the classroom. So before I got to where I am now, I taught for 1 year right out of college in North Carolina. My husband was needing to be there for college. We had just gotten married, so I taught in North Carolina for a year, and then we ended up moving to Texas, and I couldn't get a teaching job, y'all. I mean, to save my life. In North Carolina, they were paying high school math teachers extra stipends just because they needed math teachers so badly. And then in Texas, I guess they didn't need us. I don't know, but it worked out well because I had actually gotten a degree in math and computer science. And the way that the journey unfolded, I ended up in the oil and gas industry, working with engineers and geologists at a large company in Texas. And I got to use all of my math and computer science skills in the business world. So when students give me that question of, Ms. Post, how am I ever going to use this in the real world? I can nail that question. I'm like, oh, let me tell you all the ways. So fast forward, my husband and I had the opportunity to move back home to Arkansas. At that point, we had one child. We had one on the way. We moved back home. It was so good to be back with family. Teaching didn't really cross my mind yet because I eventually found my way to another job in oil and gas. But then, a few years later, my mom actually came to me and she said, hey, there's these homeschool kids in Fort Smith that really need some help with their math. You at all willing to teach a night class? And I said, yes, I would love to do that. So I started teaching Algebra 2 for some homeschool kids, and the teaching bug bit me. And I'm assuming if you're here, the teaching bug has bit you too, yeah? And I thought, I've got to figure out how to get back in a classroom. So I taught those homeschool kids for 2 years. And then by this point, y'all, I'm like 35 years old. And I said to my husband, I know we're kind of getting older, but I think I want to go back to college and be a teacher. What do you think? Like if I go get my master's, I could start working in a classroom immediately. So that's what I did. That's how I ended up back in a classroom in Arkansas. And if you'll go ahead and click to the next slide. I started my master's in January. That summer, I interviewed for a school called Bell Point, and I'm from Fort Smith. The school was in Fort Smith. And when I went to the interview, I said, I know Northside High School, I know Southside High School, I've never heard of Bell Point. So well, it's the Alternative Center. I thought, well, I don't know what that is, but if it's a job, sign me up. Pretty quickly, I figured out what an alternative center is. So I took the job. I honestly was really, really excited about it as I started to hear just more about the kids. And in Arkansas, you'll probably learn this as you progress into the teaching field, but there are different flavors of alternative education. The school in Fort Smith, though, the kids aren't there just because maybe they have anxiety and they want a smaller space. They're there because they got kicked out of their high schools. So it was a very unique environment, but I felt very optimistic that I was going to be able to just jump right in and make a difference. So that summer, I kind of got to know my fellow teachers. That fall, I started at Bell Point. First day comes. Y'all, it was awful. Awful as in, like, I went home and I boo-hooed. My husband is right here on the front row. He can attest to this. I came home and he was like, so it was a rough day? And I go, no, you don't understand. Like, I think they are trying to make me leave teaching already. Like, they are trying to run me away from this great profession. And he said, well, let me fix you something for dinner. And I said, no, you don't I can't eat. I think I might throw up if I eat. That's how bad the first day was. But I got it together. I went back the next day. It was still pretty bad. Honestly, the whole first week was pretty rough. But somewhere after that, here's the key to your first year. I started building relationships with those kids, and it changed everything. It really did change everything. The kids and I started operating from this position of mutual respect for each other, which was very different than it had been the first week because I didn't know them and they didn't know me. And I survived. I got through the first quarter, the first semester, the first year. And by the end of that first year, I knew that I had made the right decision. And despite how much money I had been making in engineering, I knew that I would never go back. That teaching was definitely my heart work for life. Let me back up quickly. You need to understand something about Bell Point to understand the stories I'm going to tell you. So Bell Point, the alternative school in Fort Smith, had just received what's called a SIG grant. SIG, S-I-G, stands for School Improvement Grant. And when a school gets that, we're talking about millions of dollars. You can use that to kind of revolutionize the way that you're teaching kids. So with our millions of dollars, Bell Point had decided we were going to kind of completely flip-flop the way that we had been teaching, which was very, now remember the kids that we've got, right? It was very much about discipline and sit there quietly, follow the rules, get the work done on your computer screen, a lot of compliance, yeah? We decided we were going to do PBL, project-based learning, which is very, very different from what they had been doing. So in PBL, here's what I knew. I knew that I was going to have to teach math in a way that was not only incredibly engaging for the students, but to where rather than just like taking a test at the end of our math unit, they were creating something to present and to kind of be scored. And preferably, this was involving the community in my classroom, like bringing in adults, bringing in mentors, and letting the kids create something to demonstrate their learning. So because that was the way that we had decided to approach teaching, all of the teachers go to this conference in Orlando. And I was sitting in, there were like different classrooms for different teachers. I was in the high school math classroom, and they were telling us, yeah, here's how PBL works. And I was so overwhelmed. First of all, because I hadn't met my kids yet, yeah, but I knew they were kind of rough based on what I had been told. And then I kept saying, PB, what? Project-based learning, Miss Post, project-based learning. I was like, okay, I'm trying to wrap my brain around all the things. But I remember sitting in that class, and they gave us a 2-hour break, and they said, when you come back, have your first project ready to kind of throw out there, and we're going to do what's called a critical friends. We're going to tell you what we think. And I was terrified. So I had found this quiet place in the hotel where the conference was, and I was sitting in a chair, and y'all know those big Post-it notes? They're like 2 feet wide. I think they're like a 2x3. The hallway at this hotel was covered in these Post-it notes. And where I was sitting, I was just kind of staring off into space, racking my brain, trying to think about what would engage these kids that I was about to teach. And my eyes, you know when you're staring off, but you're not really looking at what you're staring at, you're just looking. I was doing that, and then my eyes focused in on this Post-it note right there in front of me, and it said, tattoo parlor. Tattoo parlor. And my mind went, I can teach geometry by designing tattoos. So I don't know these kids yet, but I bet they like some tattoos. So that was like my first brainchild for project-based learning. And I took it, I was so excited. I took it back to the classroom and I said, what do y'all think? Will this work? Absolutely, it'll work. So that was, you can go to the next slide. That was my first project at Bell Point. So on the left, you are seeing there in the back, that's one of the tattoo artists. He's SoCal, Southern California tattoo artist. You can kind of see his arm. There's some of my kids looking at him. That's my mentor teacher, Holly. And over here, this was me with all the tattoo artists that came. And here's the thing about project-based learning, and this speech isn't a plug for PBL, but I do want to say this, because you can incorporate community in your classroom no matter what strategy you use for teaching. I came to understand that my lived experiences were drastically different than those of my, yeah? Tattoo artists' lived experiences were not drastically different from my students. And I'm sitting there in my classroom and I'm listening to them talking about catching charges, felonies, making good life choices so that you have opportunities in different industries and the workforce. And I was just amazed. And I thought, I have to keep doing this. I have to keep inviting these adults into my classroom because they can teach my students lessons that I can't teach them, because they have lived experiences they can share with my kids. So that was the tattoo project. And the beauty of it is that I was getting to know my kids while they were talking to some of these other adults. All right, you can go ahead to the next slide. I want to tell you a quick story. I think we have time for it. Yeah, that's just one of my kids. We had whiteboard tables, which I highly recommend when you are a teacher. Even if you have like the old kind of ugly brown desks, you can still write on those suckers with a dry erase marker, just FYI. And so one of my favorite things to do is when kids are sitting there working, just walk up to them. You don't say anything. You don't like interrupt their learning. Just write them a little note of encouragement. You would be shocked. Or sometimes you can go around with a Post-it note and just stick it over there next to them and kind of wink at them and walk by. You know what they'll do? They don't throw them away. They will stick that Post-it note in their pocket and they will keep it. And I'm talking about the bad kids, yeah, that got kicked out of the high schools. They're the ones keeping those Post-it notes. They're the ones whose hearts and faces light up when they get that little note. Okay, so quick story. This is my first year, yeah. And we were doing our first code red. So at Bell Point, just in case we're ever in a dangerous situation, a fight breaks out or whatever, we have walkie-talkies on us at all times. We have our ears going. And I had heard, code red, lock your doors. So I've got my juniors, my 11th graders are in the classroom, and I'm saying, run to the closet, go hide, go hide. And I go over and I'm pushing stuff in front of my door and making sure it's locked, sweeping the hallway for kids. And I get all that done and I turn around and guess where my 11th grade students have not gone? They are not in the closet. And I'm like, just kind of looking. Oh, I was so disappointed. So this was early in the year, but we had pretty good relationship established by this point. Like they were pretty much doing everything that I asked them to do. So I was kind of disappointed. So I can hear our principal. She was this lady, and she always wore high heels, and I could hear click, 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 click down the hallway. She shook my door. We got through the fake code red, and I sat all my juniors down, and I said, "Okay, family talk. Let's all sit down here together. Why didn't you do what I asked you to do? It was just getting in the closet for a couple of minutes." And I will never forget this. The leader of that student group sitting there. They were all sitting together, actually. And he kind of had his arms crossed and his head down, and his dreads were hanging down in his face. And he looked up at me. He said, "Miss, we ain't hiding in no closet." And I said, "Baby, I'm supposed to be the one that protects you. If there really was a shooter in the building, I'm supposed to be the one that protects you." He kind of grinned, and he said, "Miss, we know that you love us, but we ain't hiding in no closet. If there's ever a shooter in this building, he might get off 2 or 3 shots. That's all he's going to get. Take him down." So again, I was beginning to learn that my lived experiences and the way that my brain operated, because in that moment, I'm like, go hide in the closet. My students were like, no, we're taking him down. It's very, very different. As time went on, I was starting to step into some leadership roles at Bell Point, and I will never forget my first summative evaluation. When you're a teacher, you are going to love those days. It's when, y'all know the Charlotte Danielson, right? The test rubric, there's like, I don't know how many different things when you look at each individual one that you're getting scored on. It seems like about 100. But I had been observed. It was the full-blown rubric, and we were having our debrief in my principal's office. And the way that she handled those is she would tell you your glows and your grows, your positives and your negatives. But they called them grows to make it sound better. So she gets through my glows, and I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. That was actually good. And then we get to my grows, and I'm kind of just bracing for it. And she said, here's your grow. I don't know what your magic wand is you've got going on in that classroom. You have got to get out of that classroom and spread the magic down the hallway. That's what I want you to work. I want you to grow. And she didn't know it, but she was setting me up to write my platform as the future Arkansas Teacher of the Year because I didn't know what the magic wand was. I didn't know why the kids and I were doing so well. I had a feeling that it had to do with project-based learning, but she, in that moment, she really caused me to spend some time just reflecting on what was working, what was the magic. Okay, so I need to back up and tell you about 2 PD sessions. As a teacher, you're going to hear a lot about PD or PL, professional development. It's a little more modern to say professional learning now. People think it sounds better. But I went to 2 PD sessions. You can go to the next slide. First one was at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And the session was talking about specifically project-based learning. So they kind of hooked me in. I wanted to hear about it. And now, remember, I was kind of new to the teaching world, so I didn't have a lot of the lingo that I felt like some of the teachers did that had come through a traditional program. But they were talking about the achievement gap, which I had heard, but I didn't really have like a good concrete understanding of what it was. And they were also talking about the opportunity gap. They explained it in a way that really resonated with me as kind of like a math analytical type person. They said, think about it this way. The achievement gap is this disparity in outputs, like where you would think that kids would be achieving at about the same levels. They're just not, right? And we see it in every school across America. Kids should not be achieving at different levels based on the color of their skin, based on their gender, we could come up with how much money they're coming from at home, yeah, their SES, their socioeconomic status. And yet, that's how we see kind of these gaps in student achievement. So that was the disparity in output. So in my mind, this is like an algebra function, right? Input, output. The opportunity gap was described as this disparity in inputs. So maybe kids aren't achieving at the same level because we're not offering them equal opportunities. And I really liked that because I thought, that's maybe the gap that I'm closing with project-based learning, whereas kids weren't getting these opportunities before to connect with community members, to learn math in creative and engaging ways. Now they're getting some of those opportunities. So that made sense to me. And I began to think, well, maybe the magic wand is just simply PBL, project-based learning. You can go to the next slide. Then I went to a second professional development session, and it was this brain scientist. Her name is Dr. Tina Payne Bryson. I highly recommend that you read everything that she writes. And she was talking about discipline. So as an alternative school teacher, that got my attention. Anything that I can learn about disciplining kids and creating relationships, and you've got me there. Her first strategy for discipline is empathy. Oh, well, that's really interesting. So I sat there and I listened, and then she caused me to go into kind of this frenzy of research. And everything that she said resonated with me. She talked about the way that our brains are developed, and she would do this. And she would say, for kids that have grown up in extreme poverty or abuse or whatever situation, the front part of their brain that typically would enable them to make really good, rational, wise choices, sometimes they go into that fight, flight, freeze mode. It's like that front part of their brain, she called it, they blow their top. I won't get too much into the brain part, but your amygdala and the way that you get when you've got that adrenaline rush, she said that just takes over. And there's nothing they can do about it. It's just the way that their brain operates. And I thought, yes, those are my kids. She said, you've got to get them through that tunnel. Don't expect them just to obey because you had this conversation. You can't reason and rationalize with them in that moment. Get them through the emotional tunnel and then have the conversations. But it's all about empathy. It's all about coming up, saddling next to them, and walking them through the tunnel. Yeah? That really resonated with me. And at the end of that session, I'll never forget, I wrote down, I had a ledger pad in front of me, and I wrote down empathy, arrow over, opportunity gap, over, achievement gap. And my brain was starting to think maybe it's more than PBL, that's magic wand in my classroom. Maybe it's more about the relationships and the empathy that I've got with my kid. So back to reflection and the magic wand. What made me effective my first year at Bell Point? It was absolutely relationships. Project-based learning was incredible, but it was definitely the relationships with the kids. So with those two PD experiences in mind, I want to explain my platform. I missed it. Closing the empathy gap. So educators talk about these different gaps in education that need to be addressed. And here's the thing, for y'all as aspiring educators, I've never yet met a teacher that goes into education thinking, you know what, I only want 50% of my students to succeed. Any of you thought that? We go in there with these ideas of equitable classrooms and learning for all, and we want every kid in that room to succeed, right? They are not. Y'all can pull up the data and look at it. It's tragic. So my platform is closing the empathy gap. When we talk about these gaps, when we talk about opportunities and achievement, and why aren't our classrooms equitable for every kid? Some scholars focus on achievement, some focus on opportunity. My reflection as an educator and also as a mother of kids is that we have to back it up a step further. Remember I said I wrote down empathy, arrow over opportunities, arrow over achievement? It's about that relationship. And very quickly I want to tell you about my 3 kids. Hayden, 14. This child will go run a 5K in the morning, and he comes home and he grabs a skateboard, and then he goes skateboarding. And then he comes home, and I'm just bracing for it. Hey, Mom, what are we doing today? I'm like, are you kidding me? You've ran 3 miles. You just skated for an hour. He has to go, 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 go. And he has always done best with the teachers that know that about him. He doesn't need to sit on the hard chair. He needs to sit on the bouncy yoga ball, those kinds of things. Harper. So I'm going from the oldest to baby girl. Harper's my little mini-me. We have been told on multiple occasions from her teachers, we don't know what Harper is going to run someday, but she is going to run something, either a classroom or a school or a business or something. Yeah, she's my little mini-me. When we go somewhere, she is like so ready and prepared for everything. She takes a backpack to dance lessons, not for her dance shoes. She will have snacks for herself and anyone else that might be hungry that day. Coloring sheets, crayons, like the girl is prepared. Now let's switch to the middle child. This is Hallie. We call her Hallie Jo. Hallie can sing. I will never forget her 3rd grade year. Her teacher, who is actually a friend of mine, called up and she said, Mom, we are struggling with this poetry. Just trying to get her to be able to recite a short poem, to memorize it and recite it and get her A. She was getting like C's on it. I said, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. You think about it. We'll try to get her through this. She called me back the next week and she said, we got 100 on that poem. And I said, what did you do? What worked? I let her sing the poem. All the kids in that classroom gathered around. Hallie got to sing her poem, and just that little intervention of music into the classroom changed everything for my child. She got 100%. So the right opportunity created an equitable learning experience for my child. But it takes more than just opportunities. In my opinion, more opportunities, more inputs doesn't necessarily always mean they're going to get an equitable education, because that opportunity might not match that child. That's why it's all about relationships, y'all. You have to get to know those kids. In my opinion, that relationship building, that empathy, the precursor to the gap in meaningful opportunities for that child, which in turn is what is leading us to this gap in achievement. The empathy gap results from the inability of teachers to understand, acknowledge, or respond to the feelings of their students. My empathy gaps at Bell Point, my empathy gaps resulted from my inability to understand, acknowledge, or respond to some of the feelings of my students. Or empathy gaps. When you get in that classroom, you've got that kid that you can't seem to connect with. Remember this, your empathy gaps are resulting from your inability to understand, acknowledge, or respond to the feelings of that student. It's okay. Your lived experiences are not going to be the same as all of theirs. That's why I think it's so critical that you're bringing the community in, bringing those adults in that do share those experiences, help you. I don't know if you've learned much about scaffolding yet, but as teachers, like, we need to be scaffolded too to some of that. My first year teaching in high school at Bell Point, it was difficult, and it was due to that empathy gap in the beginning. You can go to the next slide. Fortunately, empathy can be fostered. And for me, guess where that happened? To jail. My kids kept talking about going to jail. They would leave my classroom. They would go to jail for a week, a month, sometimes longer. Sometimes they get 90 days. And they'd come back, and they would talk to me about it. And I thought, in teaching, we talk about wanting to make the abstract concrete for kids. It was so abstract to me. I couldn't picture what they were saying. So I went to jail, and I started visiting kids at jail. And I went often enough that the security guard one day let me sit down with one of my kids and have lunch. This was in the back. And it was a pretty big deal because the juvenile delinquents, as they like to call their friends, but they were coming through there kind of freely to go shower or whatever they needed, and they were leaving me in there with them. And I remember so many of those kids coming through and saying, "Hey, so-and-so, that." Miss Post, this is hey, Miss Post, what's up? And so I got to know these kids. Now, before I visited jail, they would go to jail for a week or however long, and then I would know. I had been told they should be back in your classroom Monday. Do you think they were back in my classroom on Monday? No, they were running the streets. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They might show up Thursday if their probation officer said, "You better get back in school or you're going right back to jail." After I visited them and we had made that connection and they knew that it mattered to me that I saw them Monday, guess where they were when they got out of jail? They were right back in the class. So empathy is not that difficult to foster. It's really not. There are types of activities like that that create real empathy. And you just have to push yourself to go beyond those little first day of school circles. They're not going to cut it. They'll give you a clue in the very beginning. But beyond that, eat lunch with your kids. That's not on your own time or anyway. Go eat lunch with the kids. That's one of the best ways that I've found that they'll start sharing their stories. Go play basketball with them. But if you're willing to do anything outside of school, I have found going to jail is really effective, or going to their games. I know that for my 3 children, anytime a teacher has shown up at a basketball game or a soccer game, or, oh my gosh, it is the highlight of their day. So that is just a few strategies that you can use to foster empathy. You can go to the next slide. I think a gap in empathy explains much of the gaps that we never intend to have in our classrooms. Remember I said earlier, I have yet to meet a teacher that intended for there to be gaps of achievement in classrooms. They didn't want that to happen. It just keeps happening. And I think we can link it back to empathy, to being able to understand the feelings and experiences of that child. And the gaps are there in every classroom and every school in Arkansas, as far as I've seen so far touring Arkansas this year. And I truly believe that a gap in empathy, if I say one thing today, let this resonate with you. I truly believe that a gap in empathy is the invisible thief of students. I think it's that one factor that we haven't been able to quite put our thumb on. I also think that the presence of empathy, which I've just said is easy to foster, is going to be your first step as teachers in being able to respond, hear me clearly, to what your students actually need. Allie just needed that poem. Yeah, her teacher knew that about her. Close that gap. It's going to help you determine, remember those inputs, those opportunities, it's going to help you determine the opportunities that really matter for that kid. When students walk in my classroom, I'm genuinely interested in finding out who they are under everything that you see on the outside. What they love, what drives them, what motivates them, what are their aspirations and dreams. I think every kid that walks into us deserves to be seen. They deserve to be heard. My favorite schools that I've visited this year are the loud schools. I don't like walking in a school and kids are just sitting there silently. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear their thoughts. I want them to share and collaborate. Um, and I think that if teachers will just take a few minutes to really hear them, those empathy gaps will start to close. Um, and I don't want to go too long on time. So in teaching, we talk about making a difference. That's me holding the trophy a long time ago. We talk about making a difference, and I want to tell you about one of those people for me. She wasn't my teacher, technically. She was my coach. But the summer between my junior and senior year, we got a horrible announcement. You know, your senior year in sports, if any of y'all played sports, that is like, that's what you've been waiting for, right? And our coach was leaving us. We were devastated. I'll never forget sitting at Pizza Parlor with my girls, my team, and we are bawling all over our pizza. And we found out, but we've got this new one hired already. And then they tell us her name. Coach, y'all ready for this? Murders. Our new basketball coach is Coach Murders. Oh, and by the way, she's leaving the college world to come coach you high school students. And I'm like, oh, good. So first practice that summer, we scrimmage, we run a few drills, we're running our line drills, and I will never forget this little woman. She's standing down at the other end of the basketball court, right on that line, watching. And she said to us, you've got 20, whatever it was, 20 line drills. If a single person on this team doesn't get down here and touch the line with your hand, not your shoe, you're going to bend down and touch it with your hand to make sure that you have gone all the way before you run back. We're starting back over at line drill number 1. About 17, 18, 19, I'm looking around and be like, y'all better be touching this line. I will never forget her, though, because I can still hear her mantra for us: see, believe, achieve. I can still remember her coming into the cafeteria and taking my Coke and pouring it out and handed me a bottle of water. I can still remember the time that she walked past me and I said, I don't think I can do this. Anytime she heard you say can't or actually verbalize disbelief in yourself, drop and give me 20. I did push-ups for this wall. She completely changed the way that I thought about myself and my ability to see, achieve. Yeah? It was my champion. So, kind of, her mantra was see, believe, achieve, but what really has stuck with me is touch the line. Do everything with integrity, give it 100%. I did that when I was in engineering, got me promotions, then that translated into the classroom. Even with these kids who were so very different from me, I was determined. I was going to do everything in my power. I was going to go all the way. I was going to bend over and grab whatever it was. Back, and the next day we were going to do it. So it was all about touching the line. Now I want to tell you about a kiddo. You can go to is Mari, and he's an adult now. I can show his picture. I have his. That's Mari getting his end of the year award. Mari came to us from the high school, one of the high schools in Portsmouth. He was not happy to be there. He was like their star point guard. This was the middle of his junior year. We had ruined his life. It did not matter. So I'm up here like empathy, build relationships. My toolbox was like spent with this child. But what did work is finally one day I was like, I'm going to go play basketball with this kid. I don't know what else to do. So we started hooping together, and that helped a little bit. We started talking basketball, and we did. We eventually got pretty close. It's so close, in fact, that Mari comes to me one day, and he's like, hey, Miss Post. I was trying to finish Algebra 2 through this online learning system. He says, hey, Miss Post, I figured out how to cheat the system. Okay. Show you what I'm doing. So this child, he would have 5 questions. He would go through and say A. He'd get 2 of them right. Guess what he did the next round? He wrote down the 2 that he got, B. If he got even 1 more right, he's got a 60% and he's passing. He had learned no Algebra 2, none at all, and he was so incredibly proud of himself. Oh, so here I am thinking, you're not touching that line. You're not even taking off. Like, you haven't even taken a step. Well, I guess I should give him some credit for his creativity, right? Problem solving, maybe. But I had this choice to make. And I didn't have this conversation with him initially. But the next day, I went and talked to the principal. Said, oh, we're going to have to talk about this. So the 3 of us are in the principal's office. And Mari has no idea what's coming. And the principal says, so here's what I hear might be happening. Mari, would you like to explain? Look, and I thought, oh, relationship shattered, like it's all over. And honestly, y'all, this has happened to me on multiple occasions. You are going to get in these situations as teachers where coaches want their kids playing, yeah, especially football. That's like God of Arkansas, I think sometimes. And you are trying to decide to genuinely do what's right for that kid. And I was an athlete. Remember, I just talked about that senior year. I understood how big a deal it was, and I knew that Mari had to get this credit to get to go back to his regular school and to play his senior year. So all of that is going through my mind. What's really best for this kid? Maybe it is basketball. We talk about how sports really do save some kids, yeah? So we have this conversation with the principal. Mari is furious. And the principal said, this post, what do we need to do? Like, do we need to go back a lesson, a unit? And I said, touch the line. Start over. Yeah? So that's what I spoke for a couple of weeks. I don't have any glamorous story about like me and Mari sitting there at lunch, pushing through. It wasn't anything like, it was rough. So much to do. And the clock was ticking, but he did it. That Algebra 2 lesson. Somewhere there in the middle, he started speaking to me again, Miss Post, I need help. Did it. He redid the Algebra 2. So fast forward, because he got that credit, he got to go back. It was the end of the school year, actually, and he had one more hurdle to jump. He had to email his former basketball coach, because he had kind of just left him, abandoned the team. He had to email him and ask to be put back on the basketball team. And he came to me and he said, Miss Post, I really need your help writing this email to coach. I said, okay, come here, let's write it. So he writes a little and I'm like, maybe reword that. We get it written and he's about to hit send. And I said, oh, kiddo, wait. You need to write the subject, put the subject line in the email before you send it. So he kind of turns his Chromebook away and he's giggling and he types something, he turns it back and I'm like, oh gosh, what did you say? Titled the email. Y'all guess? Touch the line. Tamari, she's not going to know what you're talking about. And he said, that's okay. If he asks, I'll tell him. So he sends the email. The coach responds. Again, nothing glamorous. The coach responds and says, if you miss one practice this summer, you're off the team. Now, I know Mari because we have that relationship. I know his struggles at home. I know that transportation is a huge issue. And I'm thinking, kidding, coach, after all this work that we've done, he misses one practice? What if he can't get there? All this is going through my mind. He didn't miss one practice. So senior year, he's back at his regular school. I get to go watch him play. We took some pictures. That year that I found out I had won Teacher of the Year for 14. So to apply for the state level, you have to have letters of recommendation. So I got Mari's phone number, and I called him up, and I said, hey, kiddo, it's Miss Post. I have a secret. I have a huge request. The secret is that I've won Teacher of the Year. You cannot tell anybody yet. I'm about to apply for the state, and I need a letter of recommendation. Would you be willing? Oh, Miss Post, absolutely. So I want to read to you a little bit of this letter from him. It's very important to me that I write this letter to recommend Miss Post for Teacher of the Year. She's a great teacher, and at times, I always try not to cry here. At times, has been more of a mother to me. When I first went to Bell Point, I never wanted to go to her class because she was hard. And then the year got to going, and we had a few talks. I remember the day she told me to touch the line. We were talking about how I wasn't trying my hardest in math, but I wasn't sure what she meant by that at first. What she was saying is don't have to do something. Don't give up. Don't be a quitter. She said in basketball, you run lines, and it might seem easier to stop just before you get to the line, but you know if you really ran all the way and touched the line. We talked about integrity. She said it matters on the court, it matters in her classroom, and it matters in life. He goes on to talk about making the basketball team, and he wraps up with this. Miss Post came to watch me play and took pictures with me. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She never gave up on me when other people said I couldn't do it. I did it. We're all going to have Amari. classroom. You're going to have them. There are students out there right now that need a champion. They need someone to believe you can do it. Go and you can be those teachers that are willing to kind of set content aside sometimes to build the relationship, to determine the opportunities that matter, to get back to that content and make it really meaningful, to make them really achieve. We can work to close the achievement gaps for students that are living in poverty, students who maybe speak another language at home. There are lots of groups of kids that we should be performing better in our schools. They need a champion to build relationships with them, to find out who they really are, what they need to learn, and a teacher who will build those bridges for them. So, I hope that you will make teaching, that career, the love of your life. I think we are going to do some Q&A if you have any questions. If you don't get the chance to ask me a question today, but you would like to, my Arkansas Department of Education email is up. It's susanna.post. Make sure you put in, the emails have changed at the state level. It used to just be arkansas.gov. You have to put ade.arkansas.gov now for it. And I heard we're doing this Oprah style, like someone will run to you with a microphone. Okay. Ask away. Please don't be shy about this. Yeah, run up to the microphone.
My name is Cindy Subiez. School and ask about of like keep going because I guess when you have students where that you don't really understand how to connect to, it could be very. I just wanted to ask, kept you going for someone who can't.
Yeah, and what you're speaking to right now is kind of an issue for teachers all across Arkansas right now, but everyone is tired. So there's a lot of, it's called compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue, because you are trying to like show empathy to these kids and connect with them, but then you've got this virus and you're scared for your health, all these things. I would just say that truly, like being in basketball and being coached in that way, and to go, there was so much of that for me where I genuinely thought, I can't run another lunge. And then if I said it out loud, you know, she's saying drop and give me 20 because I just said the word can't. It's just built into me. It's done. Now, here's what I would say about self-care. Y'all heard this talked about before, self-care. It's a lot more than bubble baths and chocolate. I'll go ahead and go here with this. Have you seen, it's been going around Facebook some, but it's a bottle of water and they'll say like, you can get it for 50 cents at Walmart as you walk in the little machine. Or if you get on an airplane, it's $2. If you stay in some fancy hotel, all of a sudden for some reason it's $9. Yeah, it's the same bottle of water. It just has different value in different places. For me, the school that I was in, I was so supported by my administrators. So my value in that building, here. They wanted to hear my voice. They supported my ideas. So when I did get into a situation with a kid like that where I was like, I don't know what to do, the door was always open. And I could go in there and say, okay, I'm kind of out of ideas. Will you come observe? Will you tell me what you think might be going on here? Same with the teachers in my building. I had 3 or 4 that I kind of call my teacher friends. And we would get together and just brainstorm. And sometimes there's so much beauty in that, getting together with other teachers. And instead of talking about achievement, which, especially if you stay in Arkansas, the big thing right now is PLCs, yeah, professional learning communities. And in elementaries and middle schools, there might be more of like a social emotional component to that. But at the high school level is definitely much more focused on academics. And sometimes you really do have to set that aside and just be like, I'm not connecting with this kid. How are you getting them to do well in your class? If no teacher is having success with that kid, who do you think we might need to bring? Mentor from the community. Yeah, we talked about that, that gap in lived experiences. Maybe they need someone that really does understand where they're coming from to connect. Maybe I'm not that person. And you're not going to be that champion teacher for everyone. So don't think that. You're not the one that has to be the big connector. But there is so much research on the achievement levels of kids that have one teacher that they have connected to. Just one. Someone in that building that they can go to. Sometimes you just have to get out of your classroom, find out what's working for other teachers, pull in the community. The biggest mistake you can make as a teacher is working on an island and thinking that it's all on you to get it figured out. You've got to bring in that support. Does that kind of answer? Yeah. Okay. Hey, what's your name?
My name is Christian Ewing, student here at Tech. My question is, with the COVID aspect, have you had any difficulties in making these relationships with students being out of class so often, teachers being out of class so often, or other teachers that you know of, and how have you been able to successfully build those kinds of relationships with that difficulty?
So for me, being in an alternative school, truancy, like lack of attendance of kids, it was already a huge problem for us. Like we were already kind of dealing with that. So that part of COVID, um, trying to reach kids who just weren't coming to school, and I know that's been a big problem for people who are not logging in online either. We were kind of already used to that. But again, to answer the question, I feel like the best way to connect with kids virtually classroom is by setting aside content for a little bit. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes of your class. It can just be 5 minutes of maybe the best part of your week, the worst part of your week, put it in the chat. Ask too, because they will tell you. But you can do stuff like that virtually too. I don't think it's ideal. I would much rather be masked up in the classroom. Definitely been a challenge. But I think COVID has given us the opportunity for what's going to be next. I've never, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I've never been a fan of perfect attendance awards. I don't like them. I think if a kid is sick, let them stay home and rest. When my children are sick, we stay home and we rest. And then we get back into school going 100%, and then they haven't caused class to end up. There's that part of it too, but it's definitely been challenging. I don't think virtual is ideal, but I do think it's allowed us to embrace technology as an industry, as a profession in a way that we weren't before. I mean, there's some veteran teachers out there that have Zoom figured out. Yeah, so does that answer your question at all?
Yeah.
No, I think if we could do one more question, if somebody has a question. Here we go.
I feel like we're on a talk show. Be giving something away.
My name's Nina Qualls, and I go to Russellville High School. I'm a senior, and I'm going to be an art teacher one day.
Oh, awesome.
How would you go about helping someone continue going whenever it comes to maybe someone who grew up not on like a sports team or not team, and they're kind of solo? I grew up very solo. My siblings moved out when I was a young age, and I had to figure out how to keep going. How would you go about helping someone with that if they grew up without a team or siblings or anything like that?
Are you speaking more to teachers or students?
Students.
Um, so I talked about the tattoo project. There was so much art in that. Okay, I'm going to say this too. When you look back at the people that have won Teachers of the Year, I don't think they're ever the more traditional teachers, right? I mean, like I was doing when I go back and look at what some of the other teachers were, our national teacher of the year for 2020, she moved the preschool to the nursing home so that the old people were getting to like hang with people and the young kids, and it was beautiful. I think like the greatest teachers are the ones that are willing to think outside the box. So art, I mean, to me, that was perfect with geometry. We were going out in Fort Smith. We had this art movement, I would call it, called the unexpected. And now there's this beautiful art slapped over all these buildings. So I gave them like analysis sheets, and we're going out into the community in a bus, taking all these kids, and they've got their sheets, and we're doing art critiques and looking for different components of art on the building. So yes, there are those kids that don't fit into the jock box or, you know, whatever it is. And I just have always made sure that they still have a place in my classroom. At lunch, I will go sit with those kids. Do y'all know about the game Tenzi? Everyone needs to go buy. It's this tube of dice. Girls, it's this tube. And there's 4 different colors. And you throw them out, and every kid, it's like you're trying to get your 10 pink dice to all land on a 3. And they all start. There's just little things like that that you can do for those kids where now all of a sudden, like everyone in the cafeteria is gathered around watching these uncool kids toss some dice on the table. Just think outside the box. Don't feel like you have to be that traditional picture perfect teacher. You can be a great educator. Some really. I have one more quick thing. Okay. So the Teachers of the Year got to go to Washington, D.C. And we had been told, so the invitation literally in my mailbox from the White House, the invitation shows up and it's Dr. Jill Biden wishes to formally invite you. I was like, oh my gosh, we are going to Washington. So we get there and we have been told, you're going to see Dr. Biden. She's the one hosting y'all today. And she's a teacher. I think that's why we got to go in the midst of the pandemic. I think she was really advocating for us. But they said, you're not going to see Jill. So that was okay, though. Like, we were all excited. So we get our picture with Jill. We go sit down on the lawn. Our National Teachers of the Year from 2020 and 2021 speak. Miguel Cardona, Secretary of Education, he gets up and speaks. And then Dr. Biden gets up there and she's like, I think before you go, there's one more person. And here he comes with his aviators. Joe, he's running out there and he's like, Teachers of the Year. And we are going crazy. Secret Service was freaking out because the president is getting mobbed by all these crazy teachers. And we are crazy. I mean, one of my friends, when he shouted out Delaware, because that's where he's from, she is jumping up and screaming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to shoot her. They're going to shoot her right here in front of everybody. But we did that. It was one of the best experiences of this year. At the end, they gave us these gift bags to take with us. And Dr. Biden, she spoke. She had told us the story about her grandmother, who had kind of inspired her to be an educator. Her grandmother taught in this one-room schoolhouse. Yeah? Are y'all picturing it? Like old school, literally. And there was a bell that the grandmother would let Jill come in. So Jill's like 4 or 5 years old. She would let her come and ring that bell to tell the kids it's time, come to school. She tells us the story. At the end of the day, we get our gift bags, and guess what? So I'm going to read to you our little bell from Dr. Biden. It says, never stop ringing your bell. Never forget that the lives you change go on to change the world. Student by student, perform miracles. And I just want to end with saying this. Someone who transitioned into teaching business. I was making lots of money in the business world, y'all. Like, it was good. But I was not making a go back for that reason. As hard as it gets, and COVID has all kinds of challenges, and I know teachers are tired, but I will not go back.
So just wait one second.
Okay.
I know that it is in no way following that bell, But we do have some Arkansas Tech stuff for you so that you
Swag.
can.
I love swag.
I figured you probably would. Every teacher loves something, right? For you like that. Thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate you speaking with our students.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's going to take me just a second to pull up the awards, just because I was afraid I'd click in the wrong place, and then you all would see them. So just give me 1 second. Worse than being a technology teacher in an audience in front of people typing. So I just wanted to thank everyone again, and I wanted to thank soon to be Dr. Post, maybe this way, right? Got a couple years, but that's part of her plan. And I wanted to thank everyone again for participating. And I wanted to announce the awards. Because we are going to be sending checks to the winners, we can't have those made right away. And so we will be sending them to your school, and your teachers will be receiving an email at like in 10 minutes, because I already sent it, that will be asking you to fill out a survey so I know how many of your students participated, so that I can also send them an Educator Rising item. And so if you'll make sure, if you are a teacher leader, to fill that out so that I know where to send checks and where to also send items. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to start. The Educators Rising Moment competition was a short speech competition. It was 3 to 5 minutes about why you wanted to be an educator. And I have to tell you, very inspiring. And I want to tell you the third place, second place, and first place winner. Sarah Malin from Russellville. Are you in the room? We want to stand up so that people can see who you are. There you go. Okay. And in second place, Russellville. Is she in the room? Oh, she even asked a question. That's good. Third place. My bad. Yeah, from Russellville. Okay, so that was our moment competition. Our next competition was the ethical dilemma competition, I believe. Dilemma competition. And in this competition, students were presented with an ethical dilemma, and they had to decide what they would do in order to solve that dilemma and talk about their decision-making process, which, as for those of our students who are already in college, you know that in the state of Arkansas, ethics is a very, very important qualification to be a teacher. And so I loved this competition. We have one winner here. Winners here are Cooper McElroy, Cole Richardson, and Drew Wakefield, and they are from Rogers. Click one more time. Rogers Heritage High. And then our third competition was the one that got us the most interest, and that was the K-3 literature competition, where students created their own books, And this was one that I really enjoyed because I was able to use people from our co-op as well as our professors as judges. And I've got to tell you that the creativity just really wowed me, and the books were beautiful. And so we'll start with who got third place. Third place is Abigail Dunletti from Russellville. Stand, that's okay. All right. Second place is Emma Moody and Madeline Daniel from Russellville. And first place is Laura Kirkland and Allie Ribar from Rogers Heritage High. And I will tell you that on those books, what really seemed to make the difference was people who shared a genuine perspective and a genuine story and were able to reach out and share part of who they were in the stories that they were telling. And, you know, as Susanna Post was talking, that's an important part of being a teacher, is being present and including yourself in what you teach. And so I was really impressed. Okay, so on the next slide, I just wanted to remind my college students here, we are looking into starting our own chapter of Educators Rising at 2 o'clock today over in Brown Hall, room 435. Sorry, I was mixed those numbers up. I know what floor that's on. Anyway, room 435, we're going to have an organizational meeting to assess our interests in that and think about what we would like it to do. And so I hope that you will be attending, and there will be snacks served. So the next, the next slide, I want to introduce Stewart, who is the Educator Support Program Manager from the Arkansas Department of Education, and I'm going to let her and her protege Raven finish up our presentations.
Huge round of applause. Arkansas Tech, Dr. Cullen, I mean, what an amazing job. Thank you so, so much. And I have to say, Susanna touched my heart. That was an absolutely amazing presentation that you did for us today. And I'm sitting there nodding my head through most of it. I spent over 30 years in education, and now I'm at the Department of Ed. And first off, hats off to all of y'all. Give yourselves a huge pat on the back. In my mind, Susanna said the exact same thing. To us, this is the best profession in the world. You get to touch somebody's life every single minute of your day. And let me tell you something, it lasts forever. I remember 34 years ago, stepping foot in I was a first grade teacher at Carver Magnet School in Little Rock School District. And stepping into that classroom my very, very first day, I remember those kids today. There are students you will follow forever in your life. And, you know, when you think about other professions, there's really not many professions that you can say that. So hats off to you. The state of Arkansas needs you. We are so grateful for you that you're looking to choose Arkansas or choose education in Arkansas as your profession. It is literally the most wonderful profession, of course, you know, biased here, but most wonderful profession that you could possibly choose. And grateful for your participation. Ed Rising, as we know, is fairly new in our state. So congratulations to all the award winners, and congratulations to all of you for your participation today. And I just want to say a big thank you. I'm going to ask Raven to come up as well. Raven Harris, many of you already know, she is our state coordinator for Ed Rising, and she has done a phenomenal job spreading the word about Ed Rising, and could not be more grateful that she's part of our team. So give yourselves a pat on the back. Super, super work that you all are doing. Susanna, thank you for your message today. Arkansas Tech, thank you. Thank you for supporting this program. Thank you, Dr. Cullen, for all your work on this. We can't do this without you. Thank you very much.
Hey, this was a phenomenal event. Thank you guys so much for participating. Again, Dr. Cullen, thank you for being our regional coordinator. She doesn't know, but she's already going to be the regional coordinator for next year. So, so she got that by default here. So I just want to give a couple of announcements as far as Educators Rising, because some things have in fact changed. So I wanted to make sure that you all know, if you haven't received your invitation for our state conference, it is going to be a hybrid event, but I want to encourage you all to come to UCA in Conway. It's the University of Central Arkansas. They're hosting the state conference this year, and it's first come, first serve. So it's the first 300 students and teachers that we have that get a chance to come to the campus. Of course, because of Omicron, we're not able to have all 500 of our members. We have over 534 high school students as active members in Educators Rising, and we have over 53 collegiate students who are a part of Educators Rising. So we're hoping to get a chapter started here at ATU, so that way you all get to host the next year's state event. So everyone that has a state Educators Rising collegiate chapter gets a chance to host state conference. We are looking for student leaders. So if you are a freshman all the way up until your senior year of college, we are looking for student leaders in the collegiate chapter and high school chapters. We need a president, a vice president for collegiate voice, and also a regional representative. So you all at Russellville, you've already taken that first step, participated in the regional conference, and you're already active members of Educators Rising. So the application, Mr. Gray has the application, and if you're having issues with it, please contact me and let me know. We've extended that deadline to February the 7th. So if you're like, oh, Ms. Harris, what am I going to say? What do you need? What are you looking for? Let me know, and I will definitely be able to submit that. As Educator Rising students, I'm talking to the collegiate students now. From $500 to $2,000 is what Educators Rising on a national level is giving high school students. For collegiate students, we're giving $5,000 away. So if you're wanting to put some more money in your pocket, being an Educators Rising member, there's the Perspective Educator Scholarship, and that's through PDK Educational Foundation. So all you have to be is an Educator Rising student, and you just apply. There's 30 scholarship opportunities for you. It's only one application, so it's not like you have to consistently apply for it. Okay, and then I forgot to tell you, if you are an Educator Rising state officer, we pay for you to go to nationals. This year, it is going to be in Washington, D.C., and it's June 24th through the 27th. So we pay for your airfare, we pay for your hotel, and also your registration. So that's high school and collegiate. The last thing, well, no, I have it. So we announced all of that. Does anyone have any questions about Educators Rising or the benefit of it or how you can get involved in it? Dr. Cullen and Susanna did an amazing job. We went together and Susanna was on fire. I was like, yes. Reading that email, it got me teary-eyed because I thought about a few of my students. So this is my first year not teaching in the classroom. And you still, in fact, have those Amaris. I'm thinking mine is Tyson and Kennedy in Essence. So those students, they tend to contact you too even after they graduate. My kindergarten teacher actually remembered my mom. Let's see, it is January. So in November, she saw my mother in the grocery store. It's been 30 plus years since she's seen me in her classroom. She remembered me because first day of school, I was a puddle, like crying. I'm all on the floor. Like, I can't do it. I'm literally swimming on the floor. Like, it's not going to happen. Can't leave me. And then I almost got expelled in kindergarten. She would let us sing and dance. So your daughter that sings, I was like, okay, I can do this. Well, Salt and Pepper song came on. Little Raven got on top of the desk and I was dancing. And I got the whole class to dance. So that was her moment for me that she remembered me out of everyone. So good or bad moments, you have those students that you can touch their hearts. I want to tell you all, make sure when you go into education, be an iPhone teacher. What does that mean, Ms. Harris? The way that the iPhone was developed, everyone was in a room and they said, what do you hate about your phone? what can it not do for you? Like about it. Everything that they had in that room at that time of the things that their phone could not do, they made the iPhone do it. My phone can't record. My phone only has, at that time, we had Snake, the only game that we were able to play on our cell phones, and it was green. It wasn't color. You wouldn't be able to take color pictures. Be a colorful teacher. Be that empathetic teacher. Be the teacher that your teachers weren't for you. You can think of one teacher in your lifetime going education. What's that one teacher that you're like, oh, I'm not going back to their classroom? Flip it. Be the teacher that you're like, I go to her classroom. I know this is geometry, but I need to do science. But can I come to your classroom? I was a radio TV teacher. I was doing science, PE, had computer science going on, all in one classroom because I was that teacher for them. That's what I challenge all of you that are going into education. Be an iPhone teacher. That's all I have for today for you guys. I thank y'all for your time. College students, come see me. I want to help y'all get jobs after you graduate.